Hello, welcome to All This Science. My name is Ben, and I'm this episode's guest host. Today, we'll be talking about nuclear reactor meltdowns and how they happen. First, to talk about this, I need to make sure that everyone knows what a nuclear reactor is. Oxford Dictionary describes a nuclear reactor as an apparatus or structure in which fissile materials can be made to undergo a controlled, self-sustaining nuclear reaction with the consequent release of energy. And thus, it's basically an overpaid tea kettle or steam engine, typically using uranium-235 encased in hardened zirconium. That is a very powerful tea kettle if you're using that. In Fukushima reactor number 3, they used an MOX, or mixed oxide fuel, which is uranium mixed with plutonium from spent reactors or decommissioned nuclear weapons. The uranium generates heat through fission and is put into water to create steam and spin a turbine. That's where you can see the steam engine part of it. So now that we all know what is a nuclear reactor, what's a meltdown? So you probably know the meltdowns like the 1986 Chernobyl Incident or the 2017 Fukushima reactor meltdown, which are the two biggest reactor meltdowns in all of history. A meltdown can happen in multiple ways, several steps within each way. The Chernobyl incident has two stories. There's what the USSR told the world what happened, and what we found out really happened when the rest of the world sent scientists in to look at what happened. So the USSR told everyone that there was an incident, that occurred when the facility tested to see what would happen if they were to lose power. And what they said happened was the coolant couldn't flow because there was no power, causing a massive buildup of steam and, that kind of stuff, which exploded and sent nuclear radiation everywhere. Now, when we sent scientists in, what we really found out happened was a mix of poor design and human error during a fire. There was a fire, people didn't know what to do, they didn't know how to shut it down properly, you get a meltdown, stuff couldn't happen, stuff happened, safety precautions couldn't be put in place, and, explosion, fire, nuclear radiation all over the place. Now, Fukushima was much the same as what the Soviets had told everyone, but it actually happened, and they didn't just want to look good in front of the world. So, instead of testing to see what would happen if we lost power, there was a 15-foot tsunami wave, which wiped out the power to the reactant coolant pumps, set off a meltdown when they couldn't get coolant to the reactor. Now you're thinking, oh cool, some steam blows some stuff up. I've seen that when you put something sealed in a microwave and it pops open. It's not that bad. Well, buddy boy, let me tell you, when that meltdown happens, those nuclear materials can hit up to 5,000 Fahrenheit or around 2,000 Celsius. Most nuclear meltdowns occur when, with or following the loss of slowing the coolant agent, uranium will proceed to melt through the casing and maybe even melt down the entire containment structure if it's left untreated, causing fires and everything in its wake. That's where you get the whole meltdown part. However, there is a way to safely shut down a nuclear reactor. So when the fission begins, a neutron is released, and the only way to safely shut down the reactor is to intercept the neutron. Sort of like a game of tennis. Two people are volleying it back and forth. If you can just grab that ball out of the air, you kind of shut down the game. So you need to intercept the neutron and close off the fission chains. To do this is kind of complicated, kind of simple. It sounds simple, but is actually incredibly complicated. You need to use absorption rods made out of elements like cadmium, boron, hafnium, so they can grab the neutron out of the sky like you grab that birdie from the badminton game, stopping the game. So they just like that, they just grab the neutron. But if you cannot put them in properly, like a loss of power, or they just don't go into place properly, then they can't snatch out that neutron. They can't stop the fission. And if you can't stop the fission, and you'd want to stop the fission if there were something like a power outage. And if you can't stop the fission and the coolant can't get to the reactor in time, well, then you get, then you get a nuclear meltdown. Now, if you're thinking, this will never happen in a million years. Well, I mean, France is 75.2% dependent on nuclear power. USA is 20% dependent. That's a large portion of the USA's power being put into something that can reach over 2,000 degrees Celsius if not handled properly. And, Canada isn't 100% safe either. We use 15% nuclear power. However, in Manitoba, we have none. We do not have a single nuclear reactor. They're mostly in the maritime provinces or even southern Ontario. So with that little peace of mind, I hope you enjoyed this episode of All This Science. And,